Hi everyone, I hope you're well. I want to take you through a presentation that I recently shared with a team of designers. This presentation was to awaken their sense of, is AI an interesting tool? Is AI a fellow team member? Or is AI just an interesting way of working with something that feels like shooting in the dark? So without further ado, I'm going to take you through that presentation and I'm going to just give you a spin on things from my perspective. And I'm going to completely follow the thread that I had created for this presentation. I know I'm talking to a slightly different audience, so I'm going to give you a brief example and synopsis of what I spoke to them about, and then let's focus a little bit on how I can help you better understand how to use AI in your studio. So shortly and briefly, AI rendering, reality capture, intelligent automation, and future spatial workflows were the topics that we covered during this specific demonstration. And the first thing that I started with was, for those in the room, or for those of you who don't use AI a lot or at all, if you think of AI as a way of capturing everything that we at this point in the world have developed, that we have created, that we have collected, that we have stored, that we have digitized, then what the AI is trying to do is trying to combine all those AI augmented, all those AI collected, all those human thoughts into one big database and then predict what is the most reasonable response to give you with that access to that database. And I know this is a bit of a simplification, but as designers, let's think visually and let's consider it like this. If we use AI, we're not so much creating something new as we are holding up a mirror to ourselves or to ourselves that shares the collective thought of everyone in the world who has produced something, and what they have produced has been recorded and is now shining back at us through this mirror. So when we experience something, we experience it firsthand through embodiment. And when we say that, we often explain things to other people and we say, we're using our five senses. We're using our touch, our sight, our hearing, our tasting, and our smell, right? And so we have a first-hand experience with the world around us. But if you think of AI, it only then recognizes the world through second-hand information, right? It recognizes something in the world through the data that we have given it. So a quite important distinction between what we do and what we can do versus what an AI can do is we have first-hand experience and AI is always second-hand experience. So when we describe an AI, an artificial intelligence, we often describe it as a large language model, an LLM. And we train these LLMs, as I explained before, on human-generated information, being things such as books, code, drawings, captions, diagrams, websites, you name it. And so in a strange way, it's not that AI knows the world, and it has a collection, a record, a database of everything that we know, and that makes it feel intelligent. But it is merely a statistical reflection. It's a prediction on what we want to see out of the question that we've asked from the data that we've given it. So if you look at that from a design perspective, then we say that AI is like a statistical reflection. It is a database. And for us, that means we need to really create a distinction, or we need to operate at the intersection of the physical reality combined with our psychology, our culture, our economics, the narrative of what we live in, and the sensory experience. Then the LLM will infer a relationship, it will predict a relationship between all these things. But it doesn't inhabit them. It's not like the AI is part of that experience. It is receiving that secondhand. And I'm reiterating all this because what I'm getting to, as you can see in the image, is a person who has a specific opinion about AI. In this case, that's Rick Rubin. For those of you who don't know him or have never seen him or heard of him, he's a famous music producer, or as he'd like to call himself, someone who's got an influence over other people because he is a taster. He tastes the music that other people produce, and then he can explain using his own expressive language what it tastes like to him, merely to him, and then he, in explaining that to the musician, in a sense coaches or counsels or encourages the musician with his feedback. And so he's someone who has produced or co-produced and helped artists to produce better albums than they, for instance, would have produced without him in the studio. Rick Rubin also writes a book, and that book is The Creative Act, A Way of Being. This is a very fascinating book. I did a LinkedIn article / book report on this book. And I personally haven't even read through this book from A to Z. I haven't read it cover to cover. I've read it in part. And the part that I've read, these parts, they keep encouraging me, and they keep me consciously debating myself. So they make me sometimes doubtful. They make me sometimes question my thinking. And so the good thing about Rick Rubin's writing is that his creative way of being for himself is something that's so strong that it even helps me, or hopefully anyone, to think different about the way that they are being creative.
And I wanted to know your thoughts on that. And also,
I'm listening to this. I hope that
how you think that AI affects the music industry or creativity as a whole.
I'm interested in the artists I'm interested in because of their point of view.
Okay.
I don't believe AI has a point of view.
Very good point.
I heard an interesting story on a podcast where there were 5 different AI companies, and as AI got better and better, these guys were the experts of AI talking, that all 5 systems, if they had the same data input of, everything on Google, let's say, which is what they're all using, eventually, as they get more perfected, if you ask the same question to the 5 systems, you'll get the same answer, one answer. And if you were to have a great script for a movie and you gave it to 5 great directors, you would get 5 very different movies. That's how art works. It's the point of view of the creator. So if AI is the creator and if it has no point of view, I don't know how interesting it could be. I suppose it could luck into something at some point, but the only way you'd know if it lucked into anything is if a human said, oh, that's a good one.
I mean, before I'm going to explain that slide, let's go slightly back to Rick. So he is saying, although the large language model has a lot of data and it can predict what is the most predictable answer that we would want out of the AI, because it doesn't have a point of view as a form of art, it is uninteresting. Because it has 0 personality, it has 0 spunk, it has 0 attitude, it has no conscious first-hand experience of the world, and it is not using whatever it has to create its own point of view. It is 5 different models using the same set of data, giving us the same answer, versus the cinematographer or the movie producer, who are all so different. They all have their own unique point of view that given the same script, they would produce a very different movie. That's a very interesting point. Because if we as designers start to overuse and abuse the AI tool for our own conceptual or even schematic development, then we might end up in a scenario or situation where, because we're all doing that, we're all feeding the AI more information of what we're doing, and in a sense create more and more AI generalization. Okay, let's pause on the philosophy of AI for a moment, and I'm going to take you a little bit deeper into the presentation itself that I gave to this design team. They've got a very interesting challenge in their team, a challenge that they all take part in, and they take part in it when they get interviewed for a job at this firm. I'm not going to disclose any detail about them. That's not what this is about. What this is a table, and it has, of course, very specific Japanese joinery joints, and it has apparently some screws or bolts driven into the wood. But this table is perhaps an outdoor table or an indoor dining room table. And given these images, you are requested by this team to draw this table by hand as a technical schematic drawing. And so I've done that as well. I'm doing it right here. This image is mirrored. I'm not left-handed, I'm right-handed. But for the sake of what you see here, you see me write out, as I'm using my mouse, clicking through the photos, you see me write and sketch all the detail that I can find as an isometric, a front elevation, side elevation, and top plan view of the tape. And so let's then, for example, take away from the human experience and go into the AI experience, and then give the AI the same thing. So give the AI the photographs of the table, then slot in a prompt. Can you make me a technical drawing? And then it gives me a technical interpretation. So it says, okay, this is reclaimed timber trestle. There's a plan view, a front elevation, a side elevation, a construction logic, Japanese joinery analysis. It shows exposed and functioning pegs and screws, and it focuses on the angled brace and the foot detail. There's a build sequence and there's an overall design language that the AI notifies us of. It can do all these things through the accumulated data, right? It can find a reference that shows general similarity between what it sees in our image and between what it has in its database, and hence it's predicting to us what is the best possible accurate prediction towards the image that it received from us. So now let's consider that as an AI render. What then would our AI, our LLM model, what would it see? Well, it says that it sees a 3 meter by 1100 table that is 760 high. It reckons that the countertop or the tabletop is about 50 millimeters with an overhang of 350 on either side of the upright. And it seems to get its measurement quite accurate. Its side elevation, pretty decent, and it's isometric. Now it seems in the top fixing detail and the joinery to make a few mistakes, but as a first drawing that the AI generates, it tends to capture quite a bit of detail. And even though the details themselves don't quite come across as accurate, for someone who works in this specific industry segment, or who acts as a carpenter, someone who works in joinery, you can probably easily pick up some of the errors and then talk the AI through those errors and help it rectify itself. Another example. The text in red describes the design team in the background. The image on the right-hand side shows us basically a SketchUp model of a store. Using the text on the left, we can see what kind of company this business is and what their design style, what their company's behavior is like. And then on the right-hand side, we see how the store would look if it wasn't a SketchUp model, but rather be a render representing the studio's identity as best as possible. So that's an interesting case study. What if we know something about a certain team, and then using that team information as a prompt, we generate a new render? Or if we have a large SketchUp model, what if we add some randomization in between and let the AI in that sense then recycle and repurpose certain elements to create its own store layout? These are all very interesting AI use cases. Less AI-ified, but also using a lot of new and current technology, is reality capture. This is a local store, specifically focused on electronics, and it's got an array of tables and table displays and wall displays that focus on demonstrating and showcasing you the product. This is the Lixel K1, which you might or might have not come across in the past in some of the other videos. And what you can do with this tool is you can scan a whole space in 3D and then use 2D and 3D Gaussian splats to edify a certain environment. And what we've done here is we've drawn some boxes in the scanned space to illustrate to you where we could place something new, something different. And if we combine that with intelligent automation, we can then insert a counter or a product as a display tool inside that store environment. So for our future workflows, I want to ask you, when you see something demonstrated like this, what tickles your fancy? What interests you? What of these things do you think you could learn from, or would you want to see in more detail as a real workflow demonstration video? Or what of these things do you think you would not use in your specific studio environment? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Click now to subscribe and like the video. Take a look at the various playlists that we have and find a topic that resonates with you. Thank you for watching, and for now, I wish you a great day.